Hello, and welcome to the Art of Life podcast. So, today I've got with me Gretchen. She joins us from the US. She has been working in a famous toy brand before, and
Yeah.
now she works with coaches as CEO. She works with professionals who are wanting to transform their career and move on to coaching or entrepreneurial life. So, welcome, Gretchen. We're so happy to have you here.
Yes, thank you so much for creating this space for us to connect today. I appreciate it.
Yep. So, why don't you start by just talking about your initial transition? Like you said, you moved out of the corporate life and you've started your business.
Yeah.
And talk us through that. Is it the same journey as climbing the corporate ladder? Is that the same as
Oh,
climbing your business?
oh my gosh. It's I'd say climbing a business is more like a mountain. Um, where you hope you chose the right mountain. But I'm a single mom and I was a corporate leader at Mattel, the world's largest toy company, and played with amazing brands like Barbie and Hot Wheels. And about, I would say, the last 10 years of my career as a leader, I spent in burnout, like really trying to think my way out of burnout. I had this idea, this dream in my mind that I would eventually leave corporate and start my own coaching practice because I was certified as a coach. And I finally hit a crossroads moment where I was given the opportunity to choose, where it's like a call to adventure, where I could choose the red pill or the blue pill, right? And I had the opportunity to choose to bet on myself. And so with wobbly knees and a jacked up nervous system, I said yes to myself. And in that moment, there was sort of equal measure liberation and sheer terror, because I realized that this entire community that I was used to showing up to, all these skills that I had honed for 20 years, were not going to necessarily apply immediately to building my own business. Um, but it was an adventure I couldn't pass up. I mean, it was saying yes to my soul. I would hate to think where I would be if I chose the other pill.
Oh, we
So,
are so glad that you have done this.
oh,
And
thank you.
every step like that begins with courage. I hear Dan
Absolutely.
Sullivan's I hear Dan Sullivan's quote here. He says that when you want to make that jump, yes, you need courage. Courage is the missing piece. And almost all the time, people will think, well, maybe I don't have the capability for this.
Oh,
Maybe
yeah.
I am not fully confident because I don't have the capability.
Yeah. 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 You
uh,
know what I've learned about courage is that there's a sweet spot that happens right before you choose courage that I think um, a lot of people miss, and I know you know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say. And it is that experience of vulnerability because courage cannot exist without vulnerability. In fact, vulnerability births courage. Like that's where courage comes from. And it's important to be with that vulnerability and sit in it for a moment and really get to know like what is it that you're really afraid of? Because I will say, when I first made that decision, I avoided some vulnerability and I did not, where it showed up is that I did not fully own the ideal client I really wanted to work with. I kind of defaulted to an ideal client that would have been easy for me and um, but not really expand my capabilities, right? And that cost me dearly in so many ways. And I know that I can picture the precise moment when I made that decision where I was like, yes, I'm betting on myself, but I'm gonna bring all this safety with me. And I really I'm not gonna say I regret it because I gained so many insights, but that moment, if I had just stayed with the vulnerability a little longer, I think I could have cultivated more courage to make a bigger decision sooner. Again, I don't regret it, but it's something that is really important when it comes to courage is vulnerability.
Yeah. And I often say to my clients that whatever's coming to you, your calling, we feel like
Yeah,
we are the doers. And
totally.
yes, you are, but literally, you are just the doer.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
universe is far bigger than you. The ideas
yeah,
flowing, the energy coming through you, your next steps will show up. And this is what every leader will tell you. The next
yeah,
step show up. You got to lean in. You got to
yep,
believe in that. You got to have that courage. Believe in
yeah,
yourself. The next steps will follow. Okay,
yeah,
beautiful. So walk us through perhaps maybe your first 3 months and then 6 months, and how was that shift happening? Layer by layer, as you are peeling off
yeah,
layers of yourself, getting more vulnerable, really stepping into the new
yeah,
you, becoming the
yeah,
business owner. What did
yeah.
that feel like?
Yeah, so the first 3 months was sort of a honeymoon stage, where, I just kind of roamed around in the idea of my business, and I was getting some clients and I was doing things, but I was really kind of avoiding creating structure, because I had sort of taken for granted the corporate structure, what that kind of created, right? When you're in a corporation, there's a structure and a culture that you better follow. And then when you no longer have it very quickly, like, Friday you had it, Monday you don't. Now it's up to you to create a new structure. In the first 3 months, I feel like I was just kind of receiving structure and saying yes to things that were coming my way. And I think I was a little overwhelmed. I was going through what they call in the education world, when a kid leaves public school and goes to homeschooling, they have to go through a period of deschooling. I was going through some deschooling. So it took several months for me to realize I didn't have a meeting to go to or notifications to respond to. Like those cortisol hits were not happening. So I had a lot of recovery to do because it was 20 years of living by my inbox and living by my meetings. Um, so I had to restructure that. And at that time specifically, a very dear friend was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I found myself I was like, there's my structure. I'm going to walk her through cancer. And I just threw myself into that. And, gratefully, she emerged victorious. And then it was my turn to really focus on myself. So now we're like 6 to 8 months in, and I realized I wasn't taking myself very seriously. And it was time. The clock was ticking. I really needed to take myself seriously. And just like I mentioned earlier, I went with a client type that was very comfortable for me and realized, oh my gosh, I'm actually meant to serve leaders who have kind of lost their alignment. They've lost their consciousness, and these people are craving, that spark again. And when I finally, stopped, when I let go a lot of the limiting beliefs and said yes to that type of client, that's when they started to show up, not without any work on my part. I would say I was a better listener to the divine guidance. So I was taking better action that was more accurate to my soul, and even my content. And it's still evolving. I'm still figuring it out, as you might say. I imagine I will be probably for the rest of my life because that's what this experience is. Um, so about a year in is when I really found my own structure and found, okay, I actually can create my own culture, my own community. And it took about a year to unlearn all those corporate rhythms and to really kind of remember who I was and who I wanted to be around, and then to kind of remember how to make friends again, how to
Mhm.
connect with people again, and not just, settle for the environment that I was naturally surrounded by. So it took me about a year solid to figure a lot of those pieces out that you feel like you should be able to figure out in a month because it sounds simple. But we're talking about programming and the ways that we operate in the world. And I had to, break all that down and really discover who I was. Um, yeah, so as soon as I reconnected with myself, it's really been a game changer. And I'm still in build mode, but I'd say that the alignment that I feel gets stronger and stronger every day. I've never had this level of alignment in my entire life. Maybe when I was three, right? But not like this. Yeah.
Love that. Love you sharing so openly and so vulnerably. But
Mm.
for the listeners, give them an idea, right? Yes,
Yeah.
you've peeled off layers, you've done certain things in the first year, you've discovered yourself. But can you
Yep.
give us examples like what you chose to lean in, what you chose to
Yeah.
let go? Because that's very
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, so I would say what I leaned in on was really defining number one, my community, right? What are the specific types of people I want to put myself near and around? I was defaulting to the people that happened to work next to me. And it was time for me to literally design a brand new community. And that took some work to really figure
Because you're a
out
new
like
person. A new person
yeah,
needs a
I'm a
new
new
community.
person. Who do I want to be around? So then you start defining that, and now you got to go find them. That's a whole other bucket of challenges, right? And so that also means you have to start saying no to certain people. Like if they don't fit the energy that you are working so hard to create, because when you're creating a new level of yourself, it is vulnerable and it's almost fragile in the beginning, and it's easy for it to be interrupted by
It's
other
like an
people's
egg
energy.
hatching and the little
Yes,
chick coming out. So it just
yes,
needs a lot of care. And you cannot have people
yes,
who are treating it in a little rough handed
yes.
manner.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the word care because that's something I talk to my clients about in almost every session, which is recovery or self-care or what do you want to call it, right? That was a big thing that I really had to permit myself to do was that the corporate grind, and it is a grind where you are at the beck and call of every notification. Um, doesn't allow enough room for recovery to create some space. And, something that I do work with myself and with my clients is to create what's called a high flow lifestyle, where you are literally very intentionally tapping into the flow state almost on command by design. But in order to do that, you must have a foundation of recovery. Like it has to exist. You
Mhm.
cannot skip that one. And a lot of people want to because even though it's a little safer to talk about it these days, there's still a lot of shame around the idea of needing to take a day off just to unstimulate yourself, just
I love that
to
you're talking
detach.
about it. And then some of
Yeah.
your clients we know are the CEOs and the executives
Yep.
of top corporations.
Yeah.
So, how do you help them? Because their brain
Yeah.
would be totally wired into working all the time. They're so
Yes.
important, they cannot
Yeah.
miss out that meeting, they cannot miss out
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
notification.
Yeah.
How do you help them
Yeah. It
think
so it
about it
always
differently?
yeah, it's they hate this part, but eventually they submit and they believe me and they see that it's true. But it's always baby steps. And you really have to break it down into very, very, very small baby steps because even the idea when you are, somebody who's working, a 60 to 70 hour work week And that is your program, and that is the expectation. You are not a performer if you're not working those hours and showing that you're active with the little green dot on all the apps. You're not doing your part. It's a scary thing to to know you need to slow down, to know you need to step back and create headspace. That's what one of my clients calls it, is needing headspace. And when he finally owned that he needed headspace, he came back to it over and over again. It took him about 2 months working with him, once a week for about 2 months for him to believe that he needed headspace, not just when he was on vacation, but actually as a regular practice. And what's interesting is that when you create that headspace or that recovery or that self-care or you slow down, you actually increase your productivity by almost an exponential rate because you're tapping into flow, you're protecting your nervous system. The way you engage with other people is going to be much calmer, so they engage with you much calmer. So the ripple effect that happens because of recovery has a huge return on investment. So what I use is the corporate language that I'm so familiar with and just transfer it and apply it to this world of energetics, to tell them that they're going to get a return on the investment of getting their time back. And yes, staring at a wall might be exactly what you need to do for 20 minutes. Like that is not just okay, it's required if you don't want the board to kick you out, right?
Mm. Can you
Um,
give us some examples, like where you worked with executives and what has shifted for them in terms of
yeah.
productivity?
Yeah, so this one who really needed headspace, he was burned out. So he had just come out of burnout and sustained maybe probably a few months of, kind of neutral energy levels and then realized they were starting to kind of dip. And so he came to me, and he didn't come to me because he was burned out. He came to me because he wanted to increase his performance and, just operate more efficiently. Um, but within the second session, he was like, "Yep, I think this actually all feels like familiar. I'm actually returning to burnout." And we really talked about, well, what did it cost? And being able to identify what it cost him before and how much more it was going to cost him again, we were able to look at the pain of continuing the path. And that's an example of a baby step, is just look at it. Just take a look at it and examine what is the pain of staying and what is the gain of staying. And then what is the pain of going and what is the gain of going? You're not going to have a quadrant that is a clear winner, right? That's why if you did, you already would have made the decision. There's going to be puts and takes in every decision, but when you start to lay it out in a structured way, the right choice starts to present itself to you and it's easier to grab onto and articulate. And then you pull from that quadrant, okay, what is one baby step I can take that will actually allow me to test it safely without my whole world breaking apart.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so over the course of the next 2 to 3 months, he was able to carve out some intentional headspace, and then it literally helped him advocate for new hires in a new way that he hadn't been advocating for before and got the approval, then got a promotion, and then went from having a performance review that was unfairly written to now that same person saying, "Wow, you're really resilient," which is like, the golden ticket for a lot of leaders. You really just, you don't quit, do you? This is incredible. And meanwhile, he's like, I was here the whole time. But the thing is that he was focusing on the contrast and what wasn't working and how tired he was. And then when he shifted his focus to what his value and his worth was and making new decisions that really embodied that, then other people started to see it. I mean, it was almost, I mean, he was like, it's kind of crazy how it does. I mean, on paper, my shifts haven't been that big. I've been doing this all along, but now they're starting to see what I was saying.
Because of the
So it
shift.
was really big.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
One of the other things that you talked about was that you had to learn how to get your clients once you shifted your ideal clients. And I wanted to
Yeah.
touch on this because a lot
Yeah.
of times, especially in the beginning, as an entrepreneur coming out from a steady, stable income, you're like, well, this person does something on YouTube, so I need to do something here. I need to
Yes.
do like I need to do 100 actions. How did
Yeah.
you filter that out? What
Oh
has
my
been
gosh.
your aligned way of
Okay.
receiving clients?
Yeah. So, number one, so I was doing that too. So, the mistake I was making is I was obsessing over other coaches and what they were doing. I was trying to model myself after other coaches. That sounds like a great idea, but it can't be the only thing you operate on, especially when it comes to attracting clients. The shift I made was to become obsessed with the fears, the desires, what keeps my client up at night, and really get detailed about my client and really just imagine they are a person in my life that I care about deeply. And how can I serve my client? And making that literally my North Star, my client's experience, not what I have to offer, not what I think they need to know, not what I think they should get, but literally what is going on with them? Like, what is making them hurt? What's holding them back? What's lighting them up? And just becoming a researcher about that and not assuming that just because I was a version of my client in the past that I know, you know, just really becoming approaching it with what's called a beginner's mind and really just assuming maybe I don't know what keeps them up at night. Maybe I don't know what lights them up and always approaching it that way.
And did you learn in that process what to not do as well?
Yeah, to not go to the places they're not at. So- I don't need a Substack right this second. I don't need to worry about Instagram and Facebook in a major way right this second. My platform 100% is LinkedIn. That's where my client is, 100%. If I take my focus off of LinkedIn, I'm taking my focus off of my client. Now, maybe that'll change in 6 months. I will know because I'm obsessed with my client and I will go wherever they are. I want to put myself either energetically or physically in their space and serve and let them know, hey, I'm here and I got you. And when you're ready, we're going to link arms and we're going to get through this adventure and it's going to be amazing. So
I
you
love
have
that
to be committed.
concept around
Yeah.
serving, around
Yes.
being in the right place at the right time, understanding
Yeah.
your customer, and letting that define your
Yes.
activities, your daily time spent, and so
Yeah.
on. So, day to day, or even week to week, how do
Yeah.
you tell yourself that I'm on track and I am not
Ooh.
on track?
Yes. I have
Because
what I
in
call,
corporate world, we have our
yes.
KPIs and there's
Oh
things
my
that we are
gosh.
wired to. So
Yes.
how have you rewired yourself?
Okay, I did have to create a little bit of a structure for that. So I have what I call CEO Fridays. So I don't take any clients on Fridays. And on Fridays, it's about my own recovery, but it's also about looking at my own KPIs. So every single day, I set very clear measurable intentions, and then I do a reflection every evening. So that gives me a lot of data. I use Notion. Some people are probably like, where do you do all this? So I use Notion. I'm a Notion user. I love Notion. And my calendar is Google in case you're curious about that tool too. So I use Notion and Google. Those are my two favorite things. And on Fridays, I review my content. How did it perform? What was the engagement like? It's also where I've earmarked specific things that I'm teaching myself. So that's another problem that we can have is we can like buy 1,000 courses or jump into a bunch of programs and then we're in overwhelm. Well, what you really want to do is skill stacking, which is really examining, okay, what are my top three goals for the next quarter? Cool. What do I know and what do I not know? That's going to tell me what to learn. So I use Fridays to really just keep examining that. And then quarterly, I do a review just to see, okay, how did the quarter go? What was my growth? What were my wins? What were my challenges? Where did I fall down? And be honest with myself. And I'm looking at like, where did I fall down because of my mindset? Where did I fall down because like it just didn't work? And really looking at it with an analytical mind and making the best decisions I can. Now, the one other thing that we talked about earlier is that it's also important to let go, like to kind of surrender and say, okay, I've done enough and I need to actually let it do its thing and see what happens. And sometimes you have to let yourself do your own thing. You know, you have to create a little more space, like my client, create a little space because I find that I can create my own little hamster wheels as an entrepreneur where I'm like, oh no, I got to do this. I have to do this. It's got to
Yeah.
happen, you know? So it's kind of a little create some harmony, right? Where you want to have a space where you have that time that you're going to, and everyone in my life knows CEO days, you don't talk to Gretchen. You know, she's out of pocket. She's not available.
I love it. I love it so
Yeah.
much. Not just because you do CEO Fridays, because that mindset is very different as well.
Yeah.
Especially for people when we're getting out of a corporate job, we might not feel that way, but we've almost
Yeah.
been trained as a worker. Like there's a
Yeah.
structure. Even if you feel your job is very creative, it gives you a lot of
Yep.
freedom. There's still structure around how you report, who
Yep.
takes the decision, how your leaves happen, everything.
Yep.
So
So
then we
true.
then we come out into the entrepreneurial world and
Yeah.
we still have that bit, you know, that operator bit, that worker bit,
Yep.
that
Yep.
person
Yeah.
who still needs that corporate environment around him to work something.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of CEO and the CEO mindset because CEO
Yeah.
mindset is very different. Talk to
Yes.
us about that, your
Yeah.
CEO mindset, and then I might add
Yeah.
another layer there. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're doing your work as the CEO, this is you as the business owner.
Yep.
And then
Yep.
how are you also fueling or helping your creatress part? Maybe that is the
Yeah.
creatress, maybe that is the
Yeah.
coach, because
Yeah.
they are the fundamentals of your business. So,
Yes.
how do you look after both of these? They're the driving
Yeah.
wheels.
Yeah. So, my Fridays, I would say, while I have that structure I shared, there's also a definite softness. So, I would say that so tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, I know what I'm doing in the morning, and I have some very clear, crispy activities there. But I have a funny feeling based on the week that I had, I have a funny feeling I need to put my eyes on the ocean because I know that my ideas are going to be more expansive because this week I've been feeling a lot of contraction, a lot of pressure, a lot of contraction. So I know that I have to put my eyes on the ocean because my brain needs to experience that expansiveness. I have no idea what my output is. There's no KPI. I don't even have an intention. I just know I must go do. It's like Mother Gretchen has taken the wheel and she's like, honey, we're going to the ocean. That's
Yeah.
it.
And
Yeah,
that's, by the way, that's how a lot of the big ideas come, even in big companies.
exactly.
That's when they
Yeah.
take the team day off, or they'll have a
Yep.
games room, they'll have a Lego area,
Yep.
like they'll just go out, play, because
Yep.
your big ideas, your next vision does
Yep.
not come from just sitting and working. Like it
Yeah.
literally needs to shift out, think
Yes.
differently, and have that
Yes.
headspace or white
Yes.
space to think
Yeah.
about it, to
Yes. These are
allow it to
facts.
come in rather than
These are
think.
facts.
They come in, they pour in instead
They
of
do.
you doing them.
Yeah. Well, they do because when we go immerse ourselves in nature, for example, um, our nervous system is so in tune with nature, and our brain is so aware of the environment and processing all the information like, ooh, we're in an environment, we're a little bit vulnerable, but look, it's kind of neat, it's really cool. So what now happens is that the back of your mind can actually process all the craziness that happened this week and do pattern recognition and connect the dots and identify new ideas, because the judge is too busy looking at the squirrels and the crows and the whitecaps and nature, and is there a piece of broken glass, should I wear shoes, like it's too busy handling this sort of low grade activity to interrupt the process of the idle mind that needs to occur. And that's why those ideas then come when we're in the shower or in nature or even in conversation with someone.
Beautiful. And so talk to us now then about your coach or the person who is the brand of your company.
Yes. So she lives a high flow lifestyle. I can't wait to be her. Just kidding. Um, um, but she is a phoenix, right? She's literally a phoenix who has risen from the ashes, and she alchemizes all the things that kind of wants to destroy her, right? And it sounds dramatic, but it's really kind of a destruction of the ego in a lot of ways, and a destruction of the things that no longer serve her, like the mask that she put on or the way she was people pleasing. She remembers all those things, but she's burned them away and brings it as wisdom and is able to recognize it gently in the client and hold a space that says, you can alchemize this. I can show you the way, and I'm not going to shove you into the process. In fact, we're going to go arm in arm together. There's going to be moments when it sucks, but we're going to embrace the suck and we're going to grow through it. And that's just a burning moment, because what happens right after that is the rise. And it's just like with flow state, right? There's 4 stages of flow state. It's very similar. And this is what the persona of my brand embodies, where she will go through struggle. She's never done expanding, so she wants to reach for something more that's just above her current capacity and capability. So she stretches. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going to break. It hurts. I'm just going to release. So this is the letting go where you come in, right? Here's what you need to let go. Here's what you need to embody. And you have that release, and the idea comes in, and now you're in flow. Now you're understanding, oh my gosh, this works. These ideas come together. I'm reaching a capability I didn't know I have. And then you're going to arrive at this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I need to take a moment to slow down and actually recover, because I need to assimilate everything that I just experienced. So that's the phoenix rising through flow state, rising through struggle, rising through burning of the ego. That would be the persona of my brand.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. There's just so much good stuff here. Thanks, Gretchen, for sharing all of this stuff. Do you think there's
Yeah.
something else that perhaps you want to share with the audience that I haven't asked you yet?
Mm. So there is an ember that is burning in your belly right now, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. Nope, don't turn away. Look at me. You have an ember that is burning in your belly, and it is time for you to say yes to it. It does not mean you're going to destroy your world right now as you know it by saying yes to it. It just means that you're going to be taking indicated steps, one baby step at a time, closer to your dreams, and you'll see that alignment will start working for you. Even the contrast will be working for you. So just keep saying yes to that little ember and fan that flame, and you'll see it's going to be a wild adventure. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. That's been lovely. And so, if our audience wants to reach out to you, where can they find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. So linkedin.com Gretchen DeCastro. I know that's a big long name. And then you can also find me at riteofpassagecoaching.com. So you'll be able to message me there and, check out what I'm doing and all sorts of good stuff.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gretchen. It's been such a pleasure
Yay.
having you on the show.